Hello, I just wanted to do a quick video on this bike and kind of my experience in the purchase process and I guess some of my first reactions on the ride. At first I was looking at getting a Rad Rover, as a lot of people tend to gravitate towards because they're a pretty inexpensive bike that has great reviews. But then with the lead time during COVID, I decided to shop around and see what else might be available, maybe a little sooner, maybe not. I came across this bike, the Himiway Cruiser, and it looks very similar, but when I started looking at the specs, the motor on this bike says it's 750 watts, and I know the Rad Rover bike says the same thing, but looking at different reviews, say bolt-on e-bikes, you know, he goes into it and talks about how that 750 watt motor on the Rad Rover is actually more closer to a 500 watt. But I started looking into the specs on this, and this seemed to be more closer to the 750 that I'd be looking for. And then the price point being $200 less, that was a huge factor. And the battery capacity is actually larger. So it really seemed like a no-brainer to me, although I was cautious based on knowing that this is a newer company, and knowing that it looks like it ships directly from China to the consumer. And that's one of the issues that I wanted to talk about. Right after I purchased this bike, I got a notification from my bank that I had a foreign transaction fee of like $40. Now, I was a little surprised, somewhat. I knew I was buying it from China just from what I'd seen on Facebook and such, but really on the site, it doesn't say anything about it being a foreign transaction. I had no way of knowing that I was paying a foreign entity. So that was a little concerning. I was not expecting that charge. I called the bank and they pretty much said, well, it was a foreign transaction. There's not a lot we can do. You purchased something from a foreign country. I reached out to Himiway and they're like, well, yeah, that's your bank. They charge that. There's really not a lot that could be done at that point. I've heard that other people have been able to reverse the fee from the bank, but that wasn't something that my bank was volunteering, at least. Ultimately, it came down to this is $200 cheaper than the Rad bike, so an extra $40. I just put it towards the purchase price in my mind and kind of let it go at that. Then there was the issue of the lead time. You know, a lot of people say that they had like 4 months of lead time, like right in the heart of the early stages of COVID. I was about 4 weeks, which, coming from China, that really wasn't too bad. So it concerned me because I was like, I want my bike, but that's where I was on that. My impressions, once I got the bike, I got on it and started pedaling and it took off. I've ridden the Rad Rover before. I thought I knew what I was expecting. It took off and I went, oh, I better turn my pass down, and I look down, it's on pass 1. So that's something to be prepared for coming from stock. That pass 1 is hot. There is a way, if you look up on YouTube, there is a gentleman that goes by the name of Tinkering Turtle, and he'll show you how to go in and adjust that. I tried 0 to 7 and 0 to 9. I'm not quite decided on which way I want to do it, but when it comes from the factory, it's 0 to 5, and then it splits up the ratios between the 5 settings. But you can, like I said, you could go 0 to 7, 0 to 9, and then you can even fine tune what each one of those numbers represents as far as how much effort the bike adds to your pedaling. Overall, I am super thrilled with this bike. I had my concerns during the purchase process and waiting for it to come in, but I love this bike. I've only had it a few days, but I've been taking it out, and I recommend it. Bolton Bikes just put out a review yesterday comparing this to the Rad Rover, and I think it's a very honest, fair review. Check it out. I'll post a link down below. But I just wanted to share, especially the fact about the foreign transaction fee. That's not something that I've seen anywhere. Another caution that I would say is if you're looking at there's two main Facebook groups for Himiway owners. On both of them, one of the moderators is Himiway Bikes. So I would prefer that they weren't a moderator on one of the Facebook pages for the users, but just something to be aware of. I did post a question on there that never got approved, and I'm guessing because they didn't like the question. I was asking about the foreign transaction fee and if anyone else had experienced it. So there's some moderation in that, so just to be aware of. But I would say go ahead, purchase the bike. It's a great deal, great bike, 2 thumbs up.